This video is in memory of our good friend, cinematographer Dick Pope. The quality is rough since it originates from a Zoom meeting in 2020 when we recorded his original podcast episode, Season 1, Episode 32. Dick is greatly missed.
Today, we've got a great guest. He's a well-known cinematographer, and he and Roger go back many, many years. Maybe we'll learn some sins of their youth in this episode. He's a longtime collaborator with the director Mike Leigh, and his list of films is long and includes Secrets and Lies, Topsy-Turvy, Vera Drake, Naked, The Illusionist, and Motherless Brooklyn. We're very pleased to have cinematographer Dick Pope with us today. Thank you, Dick, for joining us.
Pleasure.
So, Dick, let's start. How did you get to where you are now? And did you always want to be a cinematographer? When you were a kid?
First of all, it was stills for me. I had a box brownie camera like most other kids. Stills were a big thing in those days, obviously. When I was young, it was a big, big thing. And I had a box brownie, but then my father gave me a quite a complicated camera when I was about 8 or 9.
Wow.
It was a twin lens reflex camera. And he used to kid me that he had taken it off the body of a German soldier, but it was just bullshit. But I don't know how he came about it. It was probably off the back of a lorry. But he gave me that camera, and it kind of changed my life. Over a few years, I became a really keen amateur photographer. And when I got into my teens, I had a few photographs that were published in local newspaper. And then I had an uncle, who worked in the BBC. Not big time job, but quite lowly. But he had also did an apprenticeship and worked at a film laboratory in Wardour Street in London called Pathé Labs. And he put the idea in my head about becoming a cameraman. And using my love of cinema, which I had. By my early teens, I just went all the time to cinema, along with my stills thing. And he put the two together for me in a way. And I don't think I ever would have put it together myself, really. He suggested it. And from there on, I was completely fixated. That's what it was going to be.
So, did you ever have lab experience? I mean, because he was running a lab, so you knew how the lab worked?
He worked at the BBC. He suggested to me that I went to work in a film laboratory, and he had worked there at this film lab. So in a way, I think it wasn't so much he helped me get in, but he suggested it. And over a couple of years, I badgered the people at the film lab to give me a job. And I mean, I'm very young. I'd left school when I was 15 without any real, exam thing, a couple, but so pretty poor education. And but I kept writing to them, and my father dictated letters to me at home. And I copied the dictation of how to go about them getting me a job. And finally, and it was a very good lab. This is the thing, I didn't know that then, but actually it was a really prestigious laboratory, a black and white laboratory. Didn't do any color at all. And they also issued every week the Pathé News. So all this I had ahead of me. But anyway, they finally gave me an interview, begrudgingly, I think. And the guy said to me, the managing director interviewed me with me quaking, and said to me, "We'll give you a job, all right? We'll give you a job as an apprentice, 3-year apprenticeship. but on one condition, and that is you stop writing to us and stop your father writing to us, right? We don't want any more letters from you whatsoever. I said, okay, fine, yeah, and I got the job.
Well, that's a great way also to learn, because because I started in a lab too, and you get to see other people's problems. You get to see what's really important, like exposure and stuff like that. Because
but I mean, my 3-year apprenticeship was thorough. It covered every department in the labs, and
wow.
I spent quite a lot of time in their animation department. They had a great animation department with a couple of Oxbury cameras on stands, and I also I spent time in the sensitometric control department. So
yes.
I was at that time I became pretty boned up about how it worked, and as well as negative and positive and neg cutting and every aspect of lab work. So at the end of that, with the experience I'd had in the animation department, the thing is about this is my uncle put it up to me because it's the way you got into the business. And I wasn't the only one in that film laboratory who wanted to be a cameraman. I think just about everybody under the age of 90 wanted to be a cameraman, right?
Wow.
Never mind camera person. I can't actually say that. Camera woman, I can't say anyway. So there we go. So it was my way of getting a union ticket, the only way for me to get a union card, and then I could go out there and work. And of course, after a few months, they came round and said, "You young man, you've got I was Richard then, and in that lab, that everybody called me Dick, and that was it. I was Dick for life. But they came round and said, you've got to sign up for the union. You can't work here without being in the union. I was like, yeah, right, great. Give it to me now. And so I became a fully fledged member of the ACTT, which allowed me to work, the UK equivalent of IATSE.
Really? So you could join, even though you were working in a lab, you could join a cameraman's union?
There was only one union.
Wow.
Film union, yeah.
It covered everybody, every single aspect. Projectionists in cinemas, the lot. Everybody was covered by it.
Wow.
And that was the ticket. That was the ticket to my future.
So you did.
There we go.
You did 3 years of an apprenticeship. Did you leave right after, or did you stay longer?
No, it took me some time to get out. After the 3 years, it was a struggle for me to get out because I had no confidence whatsoever, absolutely none. And I used to apply for all these very lowly jobs that came up. The union had to issue a bulletin every Friday, right? It was their obligation to issue a bulletin of all jobs that were available to ACTT members on a Friday. It was posted on a board in the lab, as it was all over the UK.
Wow.
And that it was pretty fantastic. So it had things like trainee camera. And I used to apply for the trainee camera jobs until good friends of mine in the labs, one especially who Roger knew, John Metcalf, John told me that I was wasting my time, that those jobs were like gone, that they had to, they were obliged to put it on the bulletin on the board, but jobs like that were always gone. Nepotism, friends of family always took them. So he told me to apply for other jobs as an assistant. And I said, I had no experience as an assistant. I didn't know what an assistant was. And but he insisted I did, and I still didn't get in. But what happened then was, it was really amazing way that I did it. A company advertised in the Times of London, and they were after an animation cameraman. And it was a new, just established company.
Wow.
Who were, and they were a subsidiary of Macmillan, the publisher. And they were going to start a sub company within Macmillan, making promotional and training films. and they needed to build an animation department. They had nothing. And of course, that was my ticket out of the lab. I applied for the job and bullshitted about my huge animation experience in the lab, doing all these feature films, which Pathé Lab did, the best black and white films of the day. So I did have some experience, and I applied for the job, went to see them in South Kensington, and I was on board, and I was there for about 2 or 3 years. I built an animation department, right? I built an animation Oxbury type animation stand, and did all that. But finally, the same guy I'm just saying, John Metcalf, who was in the lab with me, got a chance to be focus puller on a feature film, right? He had gone from the lab to the National Coal Board, which had a film department, a very famous, well-known film department. Actually, they were brilliant, and he was much more forward than I was. They're a bit older than me as well. And anyway, he'd had enough of that, and somebody he knew there had got a chance of working on a, how can I put it? It wasn't really soft porn. It's what in the UK we would describe as a bum and tit film. Plenty of bum and plenty of tit, but male-wise, nothing, absolutely nothing. So, bum and tit film, and it was a feature, and it was a 5-week shoot. And John came to my workplace where I was an animation cameraman one day, and asked me if I would go with him as his clapper loader. So I was about 19 now, 19, 20. I virtually knocked him down out of the way to get out of the and go and bounded up the stairs like 4 flights to hand my notice in on the spot, which is what I did. And like a week later, right, very short notice, I was out on my ear. Like a week later, I was putting the clapperboard on a bum and tit film, which was called Her Loving Feeling.
I'll bet.
First time I'd ever put a clapperboard on, and they had to cut the camera, in fact, because I put the board on so loudly, I smashed it and it screamed out the number, and the camera's cut, and everybody was roaring with laughter. And I was led away while they explained to me that I could do it quieter than that. And I have to tell you that there was a naked woman on the couch next to me when I put the board on. I was dead nervous. I'd actually never seen a naked woman before. A very late developer. And I was half looking at her and half smashing the board. And anyway, I backed to her. That's I never looked back. That was it.
After that film, what did you do? Did you continue being a clapper?
Yes, a clapper loader. Yeah. Never mind second assistant. That's really grand. Fucking clapper loader. Yeah, I was a clapper loader on 2 or 3 or even 4 pictures. Same team. John Metcalf focus pulling, a guy called Les Young operating, and then various DPs struggling away with the shit they were doing. Anyway, struggling away to make it work. So anyway, this culminated for me in one of the worst films ever made, which was called What's Good for the Goose with Norman Wisdom. And I was a clapper loader on that. And he was, they might not know him in America, I'm sure they don't, but he was a well-known kind of almost vaudevillian comic. And it was his last film anyway. He had been very successful in films up until this one.
He was hugely successful, wasn't he? Yeah.
Was it your fault that it didn't work?
Yeah, right. They got a statue of him on the Isle of Man. He was at Manx. And they've got a statue on the seafront of the Isle of Man, which I used to laugh at when I shot there. I always walked past it laughing. Because anyway, it was so bad, he never worked in film again. And but I had enough of feature films. Absolutely not what I wanted to do. I didn't mind being a loader because I had a lot of fun. but this wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to work in the dregs of British cinema. And that's what it was. I was at the real bottom end with all my comrades. And so on the bulletin, the same one I was talking about before, the ACTT bulletin, suddenly a job came up, which I saw, and you had to go somewhere. There was no internet, obviously. There was hardly a phone system, never mind internet. So I went along, probably out to the union headquarters, and do you know what? I've got a feeling somebody called me because my name was down as wanting to be an assistant on documentaries. This is what I really wanted to do, documentaries. And somebody called me from the ACTT and said, we've got a young chap who's just left the BBC, and he's looking for an assistant. It's just for a couple of days. Would you be interested? Yeah, right.
Wow.
So I met him, and we got on great. And basically, it was a couple of days, and that led, like a week later, to a couple of weeks in Sheffield, in north of England. And then he said to me, I've just got a call to go to South Africa and do an anti-apartheid film. I was like, right, I'm away. And this was, it was like fantastic. And I worked with him for 6-7 years.
Who is that?
His name was Mike Whitaker.
Oh, yeah, Mike, yeah.
So
And you know him, Roger, because you were along with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mike was a fantastic teacher and a really good documentary cameraman. And I traveled the world with him. I went all over the world with him. War zones, art, films, everything you can imagine. We traveled everywhere as a team, same sound man, and 3 or 4 of us. There was a sound assistant, Bob Alcock, who used to go as well. Usually it was a 4-man team, not like these days for documentaries. And there would be usually a script supervisor person. But anyway, that is Mike, who after 6 or 7 years of doing it with him, he was offered a film for an anthropological type film about a tribe in the South Pacific. And he didn't want to do it. And obviously I'd had plenty of experience with him working as an assistant and sometimes taking a camera as well up. And he didn't want to do it. He said to me, it's time you moved on, right? And there were 2 guys, really, Jack Hazan and Mike. And Jack was much more art and commercials and that sort of, and he had made his own films. And Mike was very pragmatic, northern documentary cameraman. I worked with both of them, not just Mike, but others as well. But Mike said to me, he gave me the break. He said to me, you've got to do it. This is a lifetime opportunity. You have to say yes. I was like, Christ almighty, how am I going to do this? And he absolutely insisted. And he put it to the director, who knew me because I'd worked with him, with Mike, on various documentaries, including one in Uganda, which we were the first film crew in after Idi Amin took power, a very dangerous frontline documentary about this madman, Idi Amin, and taking over Uganda and lots of people dying around us. And John Shepherd, who was the director, I'd worked with him on that with Mike. And John said to Mike, yeah, I'll take Dick. If you think he's ready, I'll go with it. So that was it. I became a cameraman in 1974, age 27. And I did that for about 8 years, perhaps 8 years. So I'd already been an assistant. So about 15 years in total in documentaries before I moved on to concert shooting, and concert shooting led to music videos.
Can I just ask you, what drew you to documentaries? Had you seen a lot of documentaries while you were doing these kind of low budget dregs of the British cinema work? What drew you to documentaries? Was it like, did you watch Weissman's films and those kind of things? Those kind of
No, I did not. I was much more of a Philistine than this. It was more for me. It was about going out with a small crew, almost like an extension of my stills. It was a small crew, very intimate, going off traveling a lot and seeing the world, and a much more intimate filmmaking experience. And I can't actually. I remember the photographs of the day. I can't really. I must have watched lots of documentaries. I must have done, and I'm sure I did. But it was the stills photography. It was people like Don McCullum, and it was what was printed in the Sunday Times and the Observer of the day. It was the stills, either from war zones or Africa, and that, in a way, it was that real life thing that I wanted. I didn't want any more of fucking lousy comedy with Norman Wisdom and the like, or girls with their tops off. I wanted a real life, and so I think it was more that than I was driven by documentaries. I mean, my love of cinema, I saw an awful lot, and a lot of it was documentary like. That cinema. It wasn't all, that fiction, people like Goddard and Weekend and Alphaville and all those kind of films.
Yeah.
They all had a documentary edge to them.
Yeah.
The films shot by Raoul Coutard. I was already aware of all of that because I went to see them. And that's more how it happened. What I was driven by. Yeah.
The other thing I think we've got to sort of talk about really is that also that it was a very lucky time for both. I mean, you got into documentaries probably before I did, but it was a very lucky time because the television companies in Britain then were expanding their documentary work, and they were taking chances, weren't they? They were sending crews to these kind of crazy places to cover world news in a bit more depth than was done before. And so it was like a golden age of documentaries from British television, which is kind of not.
I would say it was the golden age.
Yeah.
Forever.
70s and 80s, right?
I can't imagine it ever being surpassed.
No.
From almost the early 70s through to mid 80s. But, partly that was because of the new equipment that became available, like the Ariflex BL 16mm BL camera, and then the fantastic Eclair NPR, and then there were others. But those two cameras, they changed the way one could operate and go light and go handheld. Handheld was really tricky up until those cameras came out. Very awkward, massive, massive rigs on you. But those cameras were light, and you could move fast, and you could walk into jungles and war zones or whatever. It was a revolution. That's what it was.
And also the sync sound. It's not only the size of the cameras. The fact that Nagras were invented like 68, was it? They were first used.
Yeah.
So you could actually walk around, two people, cameraman and sound recordist, and do sync sound. That was like unheard of before the end of the 60s. Yeah.
Yes, you had to be joined together, but that was
for a while.
Really, there was nothing wrong with that because there's a lot of bullshit about this. Because actually, it's great if you're working in situations like that. It's great to be right next to the sound person. We used to talk to each other all the time. Over there. This way, over here. He would lead me almost. The director would be it's a very interesting thing, this, because the directors were more of organizers, I would say. They're not just trying to strum up my own role as a documentary cameraman, but they'd guide you into a situation. But what could they do then? I mean, protect you with a clapperboard from stones is what I remember mostly. And I would be protecting the cameraman when I was an assistant. But you had to get the goods, basically, bring home the bacon. And that was a skill, to be in the right place at the right time. And Mike Whitaker was a genius about that. he always knew where to be and what was going to happen next, and had an intuitive feel of it. And hopefully I learned some of that, which obviously, as we both know, came into great use down the line when I started to shoot fiction.
You think sorry, go on.
Well, I was just wondering, when you went from documentary into pop videos or rock videos, did that involve more lighting than the documentaries did? So was that opening up a new side for you?
Big time. I mean, I did do some very prestigious documentaries that involved lighting up, magnificent palaces and like Versailles, and I did whole loads of those. But I'm not quite sure which happened first, because I was already, at the end of those years of being a documentary cameraman, I was already doing, music videos, having done a lot of concerts led me to music videos. And then those music videos were obviously, you could do anything lighting wise. They had all the toys. So I've spent a lot of time experimenting with light and big units, which I really like doing. And a lot of the rock stars of the day, people like Freddie Mercury and everything, they insisted on big units. They didn't want to be lit with piddly little lights. They wanted the goddamn biggest light on the back of their head that you could get. So I did have a lot of fun in the music pop promos, we called them then. There was no video really, but they were a great learning curve for lighting. And then I did prestigious documentaries, lots of lighting. So the two together combined really were obviously a huge attribute. I'd never have moved if I'd stayed doing the sort of documentaries that I was doing early on. You only went out with like two ENRO redheads and 2 blondes, or 4 ENRO redheads and no blondes. You had the choice, and a bit of poly and bounce, and a few light bulbs, and so I wouldn't have learned that. And in fact, so the pop promos, the music videos were obviously great experience I had working on them.
So you basically were learning lighting on the job, right?
Yes, totally. Yeah, there was no film school for me. There was only one in London in those early days, and that was the London International Film School, and it cost a lot of money. There was no way that I could go to film school. It didn't exist for me. And early on, I tried to get into the BBC. I tried to get into the BBC for like 3 years running, and had interviews, what they call board, which is one on from the interview. But I never got past the board because I just didn't have the education. They wanted graduates, really. And in fact, they only took graduates at that time, the BBC. So they were stupid. They missed a trick. That someone like me, who so desperately wanted to be a cameraman, and I made my own films, I had all my stills and photography and experience in the labs, wouldn't take me. I didn't have a degree, and that was the end of it. But funny enough, when Roger and I were at this documentary company together in London, all the others there were all basically graduates, and they'd all been to the BBC. That's how they formed the company. They were all ex-BBC, young ex-BBC people with great ambition, and they all had gone to university.
So you met Roger through that company, right?
Yes, I needed I needed another camera on a documentary I was doing for a guy called John Slater. And anyway, so Roger, John Slater, I think he had known Roger at film school even. I think,
John had been.
And he was a lovely guy, and he put Roger up for this, and it was down in the West Country, and Roger came down, and we hit it off really well, Roger and I. And Roger's work on the film I was doing was exemplary. It was fantastic, and it was all handheld. We were running around handheld, all doing all manner of things. And Roger was great. And it was only like a few weeks later that I said to my partners in this company, it's called Solus Enterprises, that I've just been working with this great guy. and I think you should meet him with a view to getting him into us. And so not long after, Roger came and met the guys at Solus, and within a short space of time, he was a partner too.
How many years was it that you guys worked together in Solus?
I can't remember. Dick's memory's better than mine. How long was it? Well, I was working through Solus. I wasn't a partner then. I don't think I was a partner till I came back from that yacht race. But and yeah, I think. Anyway.
Well, you might as well have been.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, explicitly working through Solus. Yeah.
Well, what happened with Roger is that he started to get breaks doing television drama and then films, quite not that long. And he was away. His career took off like mad. And so, he was doing that. And I was kind of, bit frustrated. And it was Roger who said to me, really, one night over a pint in a pub in London,
Or three,
that I should do it. I should make the break and do fiction. And again, it's like I was, there are so many DPs out there. How am I going to, earn a living doing that? I'd love to, and anyway, he helped me by giving me a great break on Mike Radford's film, 1984, and I did some second unit shooting on it, and worked with Roger with first unit as well a few times. I really got a taste for it, and obviously there were other experiences that I had when I was a documentary cameraman with doing fiction. One of them is I spent some time in India when David Lean was making A Passage to India, and spent some time with Lean and the unit there, and learned a hell of a lot. I really wanted it, really in the back. I wanted it. I was ambitious, but the confidence. And also, Roger and I did a lovely little film. I think it was with Mike Radford, about the making of Pirates of Penzance in a studio in London.
That's right.
I mean, we were doing the film, and it was being lit by Douglas Slocum. And Roger and I observed Douglas Slocum lighting this film, very lit film, completely fantasy, fabulous. And I mean, I knew this was what I wanted to do. And then my last experience like that was going to Jamaica for a television arts program. And it was while Nick Rowick was making a film called Eureka with Gene Hackman. So in the film that I was doing for an arts program was the life and career of Gene Hackman. And so I was on the set of this Eureka watching how they did it. And to tell you the truth, on quite a few of these things, I thought I could do that. And sometimes I thought I could do that better. I don't know. I just had to, I'd see guys with like walking around on the set with double shadows, treble shadows. And that's something I never really did on documentaries. The light was always pretty soft and bounced. And I suppose that was my love of Raoul Coutard, really. Why I found Raoul Coutard and the French New Wave such a revolution. It was soft. It was soft and bounced and full of colour and vivid, and just that wonderful old Eastman colour. It was like colour I'd never seen it. And the whole thing about the soft skin on women and beautiful flesh tones and skin tones. I was not seeing much of that when I was observing all this in documentary filmmaking. I didn't really observe that. I saw it in the cinema. I knew it existed, and of course, it's something I wanted for myself.
I think it was interesting that, again, it was the timing of it. I think the way in for both of us into doing features was the fact that we'd done documentaries, that the cameras were smaller, that there was a kind of way of working now that wasn't a traditional studio system of work that allowed us to go in. I mean, the fact that you were shooting so many pop promos, music videos, was really because you were a documentary cameraman and you were doing concerts. So then they used you to light little dramas that were the pop promos. So I think that was a great time. There was a big change in the way people wanted to make films. Like you saw Carol Rice and Peter Watkins, making films with handheld cameras, and it was changing quite.
Tony Richardson.
Yeah, Tony Richardson.
A lot of those.
And Ken Loach, obviously. And Chris Menges moving into shooting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a wonderful time.
Catching Come Home. Yeah. All those fabulous things. And Chris had a bit of that to him as well. A lot of that to him with that, obviously, French, that French love of French cinema, that love of bounce and soft light and quirky ideas that they were gags, really, lighting gags that weren't conventional. Him and his Christmas tree lights, I always remember.
Yeah.
Like fantastic use of China balls, early days, but so soft. I mean, he was a master.
Yeah. Well, I think there was something as well about operating as well. The fact that cameraman got operating where it wasn't kind of traditional, was it? I mean,
no. But what wasn't traditional was somebody doing both jobs.
Right. It
was. There was a huge. Right. Well,
right.
We know all about that. There was a huge antipathy to anybody doing fulfilling both roles, and that was that. This is about what we're talking about here. Is a demarcation line between West London and the studios, and this, like what I used to call the Pinewood and Shepperton Mafia, and what happened in the rest of the real world, where there were where I'd see pictures of Raoul Coutard behind a fluid head, goddamn operating his socks off, This was a big issue, and remained a big issue, and still remains something of an issue now, but it's melted a bit because there's so many productions didn't want to carry an operator because they didn't want to pay for one. So it turned around. It certainly in smaller films, films that I did and went up for, they would say, "You will operate, won't you? We'd like you to operate." It wasn't really about walking into Pinewood and them saying you can't operate. I wasn't really going for those sort of films.
And when did you meet Mike Leigh? Was it early on, or had you done a lot of features by then?
No, I hadn't done a lot. It wasn't that long. I went as cameraman in 1984, and then I actually got my first break in doing drama fiction for TV because somebody had seen the music video I did with Tina Turner and really liked the way she looked. This film was in South Wales. There wasn't a black face in the valley, but he had liked the lighting on Tina Turner in this video and thought if I could light her one, blah blah blah. So I got to go with him on this.
That was Mike?
South Wales. No, not.
Oh, that was someone else.
But it was someone else. This guy, whose name was Stephen Bailey, gave me my first job doing a picture, and drama. And then the second film I did with him was also a drama in the Welsh language, but it was actually a really good little film called Coming Up Roses. And the Channel 4 Wales, who it was for, entered it for the Cannes Film Festival, and it was accepted at Cannes and went into Un Certain Regard, or one of those directors' fortnight. Anyway, it became a movie from being a two-bit bum television production in the Welsh language in the fucking valleys, and suddenly I was a feature cameraman. My work was being reviewed as a feature. And so, a few years later, having done a few films, one of which was Reflecting Skin with this artist guy in London, which Roger came to see with me in Los Angeles. I asked him to come and see this film at a sort of midnight showing at a cinema in Wiltshire. I can't remember, but I'm sure it's long gone, the cinema. But anyway, art cinema. And so after I did that film, this lovely film it was, beautiful, beautiful film, beautiful challenge, photography, all that. I met Mike, because Mike had a DP he'd always worked with, and this guy went off to do another film. He went off to do another film, and Mike needed a DP, and the script supervisor who worked on both of those Welsh language films in the south in the valleys in Wales, she worked on them, but she also did for Mike. And so she said to me, I think you'd get on with Mike. And anyway, she put us together and we met up, and that's how I started with him. All one thing after it, all the synchronicity, you might say,
And
led to me meeting him.
And he has a very unique way of working, right? You want to walk us through that?
Yes, he's got a very unique way of working. But of course, in the end, what's on the screen is like a film, a normal film, sometimes with much better acting than a lot of other films. But it is a film, and it does get, in the end, edited and cut together and put together. And we make the film as a unit in quite a fairly conventional fashion, and it becomes. And for Mike, it's always a thing about it doesn't matter how you get there; it's the getting there that counts, and what's the finished product. But he's different from a lot of other guys because there is no script whatsoever. Absolutely,
pretty different.
Not a script. He carries around with him a script like that size. It's about
Which
that
is
size,
very small,
with tiny writing on it. It's tiny little writing. Yeah, it's the size of a phone, really. And he keeps it in his top pocket, and it's key scenes that he sees along the way. He doesn't. He's not explored these scenes. He just thinks it's a roadmap. Basically, it's a roadmap for the journey that he's going to undertake.
Does he share this little book with you? Do you know going into it?
In the end, after he spent like 4 or 5 months with the actors, which is kind of so rarefied, nobody can really get their heads around it. But after he spent 4 or 5 months rehearsing the actors and bringing their characters to the table so that they're completely rounded characters, this is what those 4 or 5 months are. There is no script, but he has characters.
Right. So those actors don't have a script. They're just working on who they are.
There is no script whatsoever. And but he'll put into their minds the sort of character that he wants to build. And the two of them, Mike and the actor, will build that character, often based on somebody the actor knows. So they'll find someone, and then it might be an amalgamation of a few different actors or people that the actor knows. But a character evolves and then becomes very rounded. And when that character is at a certain place, Mike will introduce him, say, to his wife, who's going to be his wife in the film, or his children, or his parents, or whatever it is. He'll bring that character that he's nurtured almost like a plant on its own, and bring the other actors, and they'll form up and start to have relationships, and work out. They'll all work out and backtrack how they met, where they're coming from, kids, names, all that, which they do a lot together. But there is no script at that point.
And
there's the idea. Of course, there's the idea. Say Vera J, a film about abortion. Okay, and Naked, he said to me, Mike, it's going to be like a Dickensian journey in the depths of London with lots of sex.
But
it was.
How do you prep for this? I mean, because always in prep, I think, okay, there's this scene. What do we need for this scene? There's this scene. So How do you know what lights to bring? How do you know what to do?
That evolved with me and of how to really tackle that. I mean, I haven't got a massive truck outside with every light in the country on it. It would break our meager budgets. But I do prepare myself. I would be lying if I said to you I haven't seen a lot of the locations. I do go and see the locations. They are chosen, often without Mike, although he will always come and then input into those locations. But off a lot, because he's with the actors the whole time all this is going on. He's spending this 4 or 5 months with the actors. That's still going on where we're prepping. And say like Topsy Turvy, a film about theatre. I knew which theatre we were going to be in, and in prep, I would prepare it as much as I possibly could, every aspect of it, knowing Mike, every single aspect of it, corridors, back rooms, dressing rooms, toilets, everything. I would have everything, the foyer, everything I'd have, because when he lets the actors go, and okay, like, let's devise this scene. They can go anywhere, absolutely anywhere. They're not constricted by anything, which is why you can't work in a studio. There is no barrier for them. If they want to go outside and kick the door down and rush out, all upset and crying, that's what they do. There ain't no studio door to stop them. So
how do you construct the shot though? What is the process of actually working out choreographing the camera related to the actors?
Well, it's fundamental. It's absolutely fundamental. We watch the action first.
But then it's laid down, is it? The action.
Totally.
Once they work out the block.
It's totally locked.
Right.
By the time that hits me, there ain't no woollying around. There ain't no buggering around asking whether we should do this or that. The actors can perform it perfectly, and they just need unleashing. And then he'll show us the scene. So as a company, sometimes I get a heads up and see it first with him, but mostly we all stand over there in the corners and round the rooms or wherever it is outside, and we'll all, with our backs to the wall, and Mike will say, no, not there, go over there, and he'll direct everybody to stand in a certain place. And Dick, you come over here and stand with me. Yeah, so we'll stand together. And he often, because he's watched that scene evolve and come to life, brought it to life, in fact, devised it, brought it to life. He's watched that scene over and over and over. And he'll have a favoured place to be shooting it from. And he loves doorways, the observational thing about looking through an open door. His films are full of them. He loves staircases where people they're made to, not good for social distancing this, but they're forced to pass each other on the stairs, and then dialogue forms of that. He's got all these like very quirky things that he loves to include. And so he'll present that scene, we'll watch it, and this scene might be one scene, it might be a week's work, it might be 10 days' work. We'll watch it and we'll run from room to room, outside, upstairs, down, wherever it is, municipal building, all over it. And he'll say, right, that's what it is. And then we'll ask everybody to leave, and the rest of the crew will go and have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. This didn't happen with me and Mike in the beginning, but I asked him very soon after starting to work with him whether we could possibly make this a private experience of working out how to shoot it. If you'd have the whole fucking crew stood there. I'd never seen the scene before. And so I'd be stood there in front of the whole company. Mike was saying, well, what do you think? Yeah. And I couldn't bear it. It was like, all these people around, does he know what he's talking about? And it's like on the spot. It's not like I've had a script. I'm just looking at what I've just seen. So Mike had never considered this. I don't think he thought it was possible. I don't think he thought it was allowed. But anyway, so soon after everybody buggered off, and now it's Mike, myself, and the script supervisor, the lovely script supervisor, the same one, and the actors. And then Mike's ruthless with them, really hard on them. They would then, when I say then, they still do that now. Mike's working practice hasn't changed in the slightest. They will run that scene, and they will run that scene over and over again. And we would watch it. At first, I was like, Jesus Christ, we'd go over there. This is like, on most movies, the actors would be in their trailers by now, right?
And stand-ins,
Yeah, there would be stand-ins. Yeah, I've worked like that, especially in the United States.
Yeah.
And there'd be stand-ins doing it. You'd tell the actors what to do. Well, I mean, that's beyond that. Mike, he loves stories like that. Absolutely adore it. The actors will run that scene and they'll run it again, and there are no stand-ins.
Wow.
The actors are the stand-ins. The
That's
actors
amazing.
do it. When I'm lighting them, not someone sitting in.
Wow. This is
It's always
different.
been like that, and I'm sure it always will be. There are no prima donna-ish. They get in there. I mean, so many actors want to work with Mike, and so many American actors. I just wonder if they realise
what they're getting into.
They should have talked to me before they.
Yeah. So, though, do you know? Let's say there's a scene in a townhouse or something. Do you know how many days you have before you go into it? Is there some sort of schedule?
No.
No schedule.
The scheduling is really tricky. The AD
I can imagine.
And the AD has a hell of a job.
Yeah.
All I can say to you is this, that Mike will not really go into, a main location, say where a lot of the film takes place, without that location being available to us for the entire length of the shoot. Like it? Skin on it, eh?
Well, no, I mean, it sounds to me like a perfect way of working. I mean,
kind of like script.
We return there over and over. We'll go away and then we'll come back. I mean, they're not completely shot chronologically, but things develop and then we will be back there. And here's the other thing. It doesn't happen so much now, but you're like this. When we used to, not so much anymore, but it's still relevant, used to wrap at the end of the day, we'd have to clear all the lights away so that Mike could continue rehearsing the scene and devising another one with the actors when we went home. So I'd have to strip everything and mark it up. Outside windows, doorways, hallways, everything out, all the gear out, so that Mike had the freedom of the place to work. So it's pretty challenging, really.
Wow.
Yeah. So you did a lot of films with him, and excuse me. And then when you went to work with someone else, that must have been kind of a shock. How did you deal with that? Because in one way, you have less flexibility, I think.
Yeah.
How do you deal with working such different ways?
Well, one thing is I'm not really very much fazed by the unknown.
It's true.
If they hit me with anything, I'm pretty relaxed about it. I can conjure anything up out of the hat at short notice. But I'd already done, other films before I met Mike. The shock was more the way he worked and the strict working discipline of the way he works it. I mean, going back after working with him, I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's quite. It's a bit of a holiday, really. It's like it's much more relaxed. I've got this goddamn script, and I can plan, but all that. But I suppose that part of the thing I love working with Mike is the seats of the pants experience. But I don't see this goddamn scene before anybody else does. And then when, just to go back to what I was saying before, once him and I, with the actors, have worked out a shot list, which Mike does because he's very good at drawing, and he works out like a shot list, a wonderful, like a plan detail of shot list. And it might be one shot, which is very nice, and we love doing one shot and developing shot, fantastic. But it might be a week's work with dozens and dozens of shots. And then he'll always say to me, where should we start first? And knowing that if it's daylight dependent, I want to be looking at windows first thing in the morning, and obviously later on, using artificial light to augment that, looking away from the windows, etc. Say on that basis. And then what happens next is that he goes away with those actors. So it's like, then he says to me, how long? That's a really big thing for him. How long is it going to take to pull this together and get going? And I'll give him a realistic idea of time. And he'll go off with the actors. He never stops, right? He never, ever stops. And he, like 7 days a week, 24/7, he goes off with the actors to what he calls a safe house, like a John le Carre type thing, a safe house down the street, where he put the actors and him go in, and they keep working on the goddamn scene because it's not quite there yet.
Do they change things?
Yeah, it does not very much. It's usually words and inflection, and it's more about acting and not about changing
movement,
changing. Yeah. Not the mise en scène, and so he'll be using every minute of that. So he's quite happy. If I said to him, "Well, you know what, I'm going to be a couple of months," he'd say, "Really? That's great. I've got all the time in the world to go off and do, work out the next scene." So there's a bit of that as well. There's it's different sort of pressure. The producers are giving me the pressure, obviously, but Mike is quite happy to be working on the structuring and finalizing of the scene while I'm working. So I give him a realistic time.
So
that's it.
Do you find these films are on schedule, whatever the schedule might be? Does anybody know how many days, and is it on schedule, or do you go over, or is that not even a concern?
Now, mostly it is a very, very big concern, and because they haven't got big budgets at all. And the time that I really remember it is on Naked, which is just about my favourite film that I've done with it. And on Naked, he didn't even have the ending. I mean, he didn't even have the last 15 minutes when we were up, the game was up. And so he's very calculating sometimes. He can be. I'm sure I'm not dissing him by saying this, but he knew that he needed more bread, more money to finish the film. And so he organized a screening for all the backers and all of us crew. And so we had a great big gathering, and he showed us the film, and obviously it's missing like a complete denouement finale, hasn't got one. And at the end of it, he threw his hands up in the air and said, "Might as well walk away now then, eh? Might as well call it a day. We're never going to finish this. We haven't got any more money, and the film can't be shown like it is." And he walked out. And of course, in the next few days, the money did materialize, and we were able to go back, and we worked for another 4 weeks.
Oh, my.
Yeah, not another 4 days, another 4 weeks.
Oh,
So
my.
there you go.
Wow.
So these things happen, but I don't really think there's any more films that have been like that. That's the one that really he needed more time. But all the others are within the schedule. And
So-
he cuts his cloth according to his means, big time.
But a film like Peterloo, where it's like huge crowds and complicated action and, quite complicated script because you're following different characters and it stylistically has a lot of sort of variation. How much do you know about that before you start shooting?
Oh, quite a lot.
Yeah.
Now, there's 2 films that we knew quite a lot about. One was Topsy Turvy, which was all in the theatre, and it ends with the staging of the Mikado. And so, and the characters who are given, Gilbert, W.S. Gilbert and Sullivan, they're real, but he still brought them to life the same.
Right. Mm.
But we knew we had all these like boxes to tick about the journey to that stage production. But also on Peterloo, we knew that it culminated in this massacre. And the journey along the way obviously was quite complicated. We didn't know exactly, but we had a pretty good idea, and Mike shared as much as he possibly could. So I would say on that film, we did have more of a heads up. We needed to, because the actual where the massacre took place was a massive pain in the neck to find and inhabit and make work, because there were many issues.
How do you deal with something like that on that film? And I was thinking of Mr. Turner in particular, actually. How do you deal with, on a low-budget film with a quite tight schedule, how do you deal with the elements? The weather?
There were two different things here. One is on Mr. Turner. We were absolutely blessed with the most fantastic summer ever. I would say 2015 was a 5-star summer. From the time we were shooting to the very end was the most in fact, I've been looking at it in the last couple of days, because I'm going to do a Zoom thing with students and talk about that. I'm just looking, well, there was one day on it where we did so many shots, so much in this gorgeous light near the sea on cliff tops in Cornwall. And it in a way, it inhabited the film and made the film very special. It was the light, and we lucked out. Whereas on Peterloo, it was the opposite. We had the most god-awful summer, and it rained, and the sun, and it was just terrible. And I had to deal with it. I never on their faces, but I put up bloody great banks of backlight to augment the sun when it disappeared behind the build, which was outside. And then it pissed down, and all the earth they put down for the horses all got wet, and we'd have to walk away and do interiors, which we did have there. So we were able to go inside and do interiors. And of course, not good for Mike, because he not necessarily got those in place, but we'd have to wait while he cobbled it together, and we could go in and shoot in different rooms of the place. But yeah, it's tricky. Exteriors are tricky anyway. It's just that on Peterloo, the whole massacre took place on an August, scorchingly hot, blue sky day in the middle of August, with these 80,000 people crammed together in this square. And that's the way I wanted it to look. I wanted it to have that sun. We got it in the end, but it was tricky and a lot of work. The thing is, Roger, right? There's this great trusting between Mike and I.
Yeah.
And if I say to him, can we take this scene and do it here as opposed to here?
Right.
He will really listen. And we'll work it out together. I just think it's more, and this is all of our working thing together is based on this trust, that I will say to him, how about we look this way and not that way? And that's something that's built up over the years, and it's like don't really talk about it, Matt, but in Peterloo, I was like, and he might have something to say about it. We have to, but then if he did and really wanted it to be like this, I would say we have to shoot this at dawn, or we have to shoot this at dusk, or whatever, and not in the middle of the day. And that's how we would compromise.
Right. I mean, that's the great benefit of working with somebody over years, isn't it? That amount of trust that builds up.
That's fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. One has to be very wary in conventional productions of how far you take that. But the thing is, in conventional productions, you've got the script and the preparation. It makes it very different. I'm talking about thinking of my feet, as well, of just standing there and thinking, Christ, no, not there. For God's sake, I can bear it. No, over there.
Right.
Do you find
it's a very different thing, isn't it? On the conventional script, the director and oneself can walk the course of wherever you're going to film and talk about and how the light should be, and
right, and allow for the weather. What are you going to do if the weather's not what you want? So you
That's
can
right.
build in options, hopefully, not
Yes.
always, but as best you can. Yeah.
Yes, as best you can.
Do you find when you go into a conventional project, a more conventional project, that you really enjoy that prep time because it's different?
Very much so.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the prep.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy so much sitting in, say, a maxi van in New York all day, but the actual creative side of it, of actually sort of being able to sculpt the light and have the preparation for things like some cranes and rigs and all that, it is fantastically liberating.
And do you build in a fair amount of pre-lighting if you can? And
Well, always, yeah. I mean, usually, most of the films that I do are location orientated. I do some studio or more full walled within, say, a big country house, which a lot of Topsy Turvy was like that. In a big country house, full walled. We only had limited time in the theatre, and then we were chucked out because they had another production. So they built backstage, big country pile. But but it's still, you can make it your own, and you can put lighting outside or whatever you want to do, and yeah.
it's kind of nice to have that pre-light time where there isn't the pressure of we got to shoot, that you have the time to look at it and go, no, maybe change this a little bit. And a pre-light day gives you that option.
Yeah. I did a film with Christopher McQuarrie made a film. In fact, I think me doing it had something to do with Roger. But I did a film with Chris, and it was my first film, I think, in the United States. And it was just after Topsy Turvy. So there we go. So I knew it was called The Way of the Gun, and I knew I was right under the gun. And the very first day's filming was in a big depository building with a tiled floor and cafes, and it was a shootout, stakeout, a heist. Fantastic it was in this hallway, and they had to get this scene done. I only had it for one day, and I'd never met the gaffer before. He was local. He was a Utah gaffer out of Salt Lake City. I wasn't really given any options. But then there was a lot of people looking at me all the time, and I knew that I was going to be under the cosh if I didn't deliver. I had to go to production and plead with them to give me a pre-light on it because they didn't want to do it. They just wanted us to go in the morning early, a pre-call, and rig it because they didn't have it in the budget for a pre-light because we were in there Monday morning, first day shoot. And it had to be done on the Sunday, I think, the day before, or Saturday, whatever. And when the place, the depository building was closed. And I said, you've got to give me this. You must give it to me. It won't work without giving it to me.
And did you get it?
I got it. And all I can say is it was a lesson that I always carried with me after it, because the day was a triumph in terms of, one, it looked brilliant. They got it in the can. I lit it so that we could turn 360 degrees. And I didn't have to hold Chris up at all with the actors. And it went really smoothly. And I know that I'd have been on a plane if we hadn't got the day in. And I know we wouldn't have got the day in if I hadn't had the pre-light. So I knew that I wouldn't have survived it.
Yeah,
it's the thing, isn't it? You don't make the first day, you can be out.
Yeah, because you haven't built up that trust or anything.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah.
And it was so good, and the scene was so good. Everybody was like high at the end of it, and it kicked us off with a great first day.
It must have been great advantage all the years you did documentary work and you did pop videos, pop promos rather, that seat of your pants kind of way of working.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mike, yeah.
Yeah.
And also it's a lighting thing as well, but
Yeah.
it's, being able to make it work, but not necessarily make it too convoluted.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
knowing how much time you had. So it's, in a way, it's about making it real in a way, which is kind of where I come from.
Yeah.
Making it real, heightened, perhaps somewhat stylized, but real, rooted, and then yeah, I don't know, and thinking all the time about how it's going to be, trying to make it work in the time you've got as well, and that's documentary stuff about how long you've got to do to finish the day and get the shots in.
Mm. How do you find it when you're working? I mean, in that case, you're working with a totally new crew that you've never worked with before. I mean, how do you find that it's a different system in America when you first came over here? And then how much do you rely on your gaffer?
Yes, it's it changes. Obviously, it alters because I've done quite a few films there now where the entire crew has been strangers, and that kind of takes me back to, in a way, to music video days where I'd turn up and it would be all, I didn't know who was going to be there. You never knew. I mean, sometimes I carried the same assistant, but quite often I'd arrive with my meter box and I'd never seen it. Didn't know what the promo was going to be or anything. They would have, there was so little prep on any of that shit that it was just made up as they went along. And yeah, the documentary. Anyway, carry on.
Right, but how much do you rely when you work with a gaffer? Are you very specific about what lights you want and where you want them, or do you give a gaffer a brief for a kind of overall concept?
No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I have to be right in. And a few times I've come quite unstuck with it, where I know that's what they want. The gaffer wants. I know that's what they want because there's quite a few of them are very frustrated DPs themselves. And they want to be given, their creative head, which is fine. That's great. But not necessarily on a film that I'm going to shoot, because I'm so hands-on with every unit is like got its purpose, and I can't be one of those who arrives on the set, so great, that's really good. A few tweaks and you're away. I can't, never have worked like that. I suppose all the documentary is I do everything but put the lights in the, and chalk the floor where I want them.
Yeah.
I don't do that. And I work with very talented gaffers here. And the guy who did Mother's Brooklyn for me, he's done 2 films with me now, and I really, really love him. I think he's really talented.
What was the other one he did?
It was a small film called Angelica, but he did Shame. And he worked with Sean Bobbitt on quite a few films. Anyway, I got his name off Sean, Sean Bobbitt, and he's really good. I really like him. He's got a youngish, but he's really talented. And never let me down. But it's a really tricky thing. But I've come across it in the UK. It's more than even in America, where they want it to be their way. Yeah, not really my way. So I'm there. I don't know what I'm there for, but they would love it if they did it. And I said, I think it's absolutely brilliant, and went, well, with that. But it's not the way life is.
Mm.
So yeah, that works on every level. On my crew, my camera crew, my lighting, grip, all of them. So sometimes it's a pig in the poke, and then it works out good at others.
Do you still always operate? I mean, you operate with Mike Leigh, right?
Yes, always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on Peterloo, we had 2 other cameras come in, but
Yeah.
with all those people and all that action, only at the end, at the massacre itself, we needed some extra coverage.
Right. Yeah.
So I brought in a couple of other cameras, but no, I always operate with him. He sees it as just one job.
Yeah.
He won't have it any other way. So I'm very happy to do that with him on that. And on the last film I did, this film here with Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci, I operated it myself on that, and I really enjoyed it. I really love it, but I don't always, on the film I did before, and I did it in Africa on that Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. But on Edward's film, I was quite happy. To have an operator. It was so lit, the film, and but I still got in there every time that A camera, Craig Harbison, operated it. I was in there with B, and as Craig acknowledged, I would often be in there on B in a better position, certainly in the place that I thought it could be done from as an alternative, and quite often it worked better. But the thing is, I have to be doing it. I can't be just sitting in front of the monitor. I have to be operating a camera. So on something like Motherless Brooklyn, it's 2 camera shoot basically, which obviously has its drawbacks in terms of size of lenses and everything. But I never really put a long lens against a wider lens, and never really on a 35 and 100 or something daft like that. It's always a 35 and perhaps a 50 or a 75 that, and going for an alternative.
Well, this has been great. This is good. We've got plenty.
It's been really good, isn't it? I actually want a quick little bit about The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. You spent a lot of time in Africa shooting documentaries. Was that wasn't your first time back anywhere in Africa, was it, for quite a long time?
Yes, it was. I hadn't been back to Africa. Malawi is where it was. I hadn't been back to Africa for a whole number of years. So it was brilliant to go back there. And we were staying in a very small little town right up in the north of Malawi, very impoverished town, and we were in a really rough hotel. The whole unit, the cast and everybody were in the same hotel. It was like the perfect lockdown hotel, actually. And we spent the film with each other's company. It was really good. And again, I had never worked with any of the crew before, and they were mostly South African. And the gaffer was a black guy, up and coming black gaffer, a Zulu. And I chose him because I just couldn't get over the fact of a black South African becoming a gaffer. I mean, the struggle that must be fantastic, beyond anything I've ever experienced, of getting there as a black guy. And he was the most wonderful person, human being, and a brilliant gaffer. But I didn't know that when we kicked off. And, they were all like pigs in the poke. You didn't know quite what you were guessing, but he was triumphant. He turned out great. But it was first time I've been back there for a long time, after having spent so many years, and with you as well, in Mountains of the Moon. I mean, my God, what an experience that was. So, no, it was great to go back there.
Yeah. And it was a very low budget film, right? So a lot of challenges.
Cheap as chips.
Yeah. Well, you did well.
Cheap as chips.
So did it feel like going home?
Yes.
Yeah.
It did. I was like really happy on the shoot. I just had the most fantastic experience. And after so many years, I brought my stills camera out and started taking portraits of people there, specific people there. who I met up with. I started to take photographs of them. It was, which I've added now to my portfolio, as they say.
Lovely. Yeah.
Well, good.
Well, good.
Well, we've got a lot.
What do you
Okay.
think, Dick? Have we talked about everything?
Yeah, I think so.
It's really interesting.
Thank you for
Great.
this. It's been great.
We managed to get through this whole conversation without any mention of digital in the film.
Oh, yeah, deliberate, really.
Which I really appreciate.
Yeah. Well, Roger.
Sorry. Yeah, no, it's gets a bit tiresome, that one, doesn't it?
I get there's so much bullshit talked about it all the time.
Yeah.
I do actually hanker after doing another film.
Yeah.
I made quite a lot of headway into making this one I did in this Supernova film with Colin Firth on film. But in the end, it didn't work out for various reasons. So we did it digital, and fine. But there's still one I've got in me. Mike knows that I want to do his next one on film. I want to go back to it and revisit it.
And for what reason?
It's not really about nostalgia. It's just about a different feel, a whole different thing. And we did so many, we've only done a few on digital, really. Did so many on film. I just want to try it again. And I'd rather try it with him than anybody.
Yeah.
Just for the sheer hell of it, really. Keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Another challenge.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the right thing in the subject matter. If I do ever hear about what it's going to be about, it might put me off, but I wouldn't mind another go.
Good.
Good. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Great. We did get the film video.
Yeah.
Film digital. But it was a nice way of doing it.